4 chord. Next back. 5 chord. 4 chord. 1 chord. Okay, so band play B flat blues and 1, 2, 3, 4. Sticking strictly to this. Now, for you know, this works for all levels of players. All right, because when we use this, we get to some substitutions that we're going to get to, stacking some other things on it, and all of a sudden it becomes a much more mature sound, and it gives you a lot of possibilities. And now, just give a quick overview of what that is. I go to it in more detail in my book, and it's broken down and how I do those things. All right, so now this time we're going to play the blues, and on bar 4, which is a typical place that a typical place like a diminished. I played an augmented diminished, but typical place people tend to alter going to the 4 chord. So I'm going to do that by playing. But this time I'm going to start it on the +5. I'm going to do it on a +5 or a flattened 5. So, so if I do it on a +5, then it's going to give me +5, dominant 7, 1, raised 9, flat 5, right? So now here's what it sounds like in context. 2, 3, 4. I'm covering extensions, and I'm getting a completely different sound, but all I'm using is one scale. You know, obviously change tonalities, I'm changing with it. But if you end up, when you're teaching little kids especially, it's important for them to hear boundaries and to hear, yes, there's right notes, yes, there's bad notes. Very important. So frequently when I'm doing clinics and things, whenever I work with high school students, you find the same situation that I grew up in, which is the band director, okay, you're gonna take the solo, and they got like rhythm changes. Kids just playing random notes, you know, it's like, they have no clue, right? So it's better to get people started playing good notes right away and understanding what a good note is, and there's bad notes and good notes. And so it's a process, and then as they learn more, you stack on top of those things. For us adults, this gives us parameters also. You know, when you start, like, you have a passion for music, you want to learn jazz, and there's so much stuff out there, where do I start? Oh my God, you know, there's just so much stuff. You have to break off and take little increments at a time so that you can digest this and then build upon that. So in my book, I have 4 distinct techniques of improvisation, and all of them are related, but they're all slightly different. And so on this, you think you can take solo on this just using those scales, those limitations? Okay, so play the scale. 4 chords. Four chord. Okay, so I know that you can play much more stuff. I know that. Stick to just the scales.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Got a nice sound, and he played, you know, you hear it, you know, even if you don't know music, you can hear the notes are right, you know, right away. And then with other stuff that he knows, as he's all of a sudden not bound by those as guidelines, he can start finding other things and make it interesting. But this is like a base that I use. And so for those shifting chords, I use those in a variety of settings. Let me go. So play it again, and then on the 4 chord, I'm sorry, on the one going to the 4 chord, I want you to play off the +5. Play off the +5. But it obviously starts anywhere you hear it, but that's the scale. 2, 3, 4. Now you can bring in other things. Okay, let me go. Part 2 of this would be. So now you're taking triads off of 1 and off of dominant 7. It adds 1 note. This is bringing in the 4th in that. So, but it's different when you're breaking it up with the triads. Everybody follow me so far, right? Okay. So, just play 1 chord, just a B flat 7, and you're gonna play B flat 7, and then go up a half step, like 8 bars each. And so this time you're gonna play C, actually go up a whole step. C, so you're a B flat 7, and you're gonna go to C7, right? 8 bars each time. And so you're gonna improvise not only on the scale, but then you're gonna start bringing in the 2 scale, 2 triads. So now you got. You got the 2 scales that you play with, okay? 2, 3, 4. But whatever, you were getting the sound out of it right away. So there's a record that I did. Should that door be open?
Close the door.
Thank you. So these simple techniques, like there's a recording that I did with Freddie Hubbard called Bolivia. And my solo, when I'm starting that solo out, it's the same thing. So that's the same thing. Same thing that I'm using it, but it didn't sound like that when you hear the record. And I didn't call it a dominant pentatonic at that time. But let me just say, scales are your friend. So for pentatonic scales, there are certainly a lot of them, but I'm going to go over 4 basic pentatonic scales that everyone should know. All right, so a C major pentatonic scale is the same as a minor? A minor, correct. So a C major pentatonic, the given notes are the same as a minor, correct. Now, a dominant pentatonic scale that I played there, dominant pentatonic is the same as a minor 6 pentatonic. A minor 6 a minor 6 pentatonic is the same as a regular minor pentatonic. Only a 4th up is giving you the dominant pentatonic. All right? So a minor 6 pentatonic is the same notes as a dominant pentatonic, but a 4th way. And a minor pentatonic is the same as a major pentatonic, but starting on the relative minor note. All right, C major pentatonic is A minor, the same notes, and a D minor 6 pentatonic is the same as a G7 dominant pentatonic. And where have we heard these things? Sound all there, and if you go through and you transcribe bits and pieces of Coltrane solo on Impressions, the first at the live at the Vanguard, he's playing off those triads constantly, and it's usually most 1 and 7, but then he brings in 1, 7, and 2, which colors gives you a major minor sound or a flatted 5 sound, and it's just interesting way to do it. But the person who is like, for me, that is most incredible with that sound would be McCoy Tyner, who uses it and develops it later. And there's a great example on the record. The recording is called The Real McCoy. And on that, he does a song called 4x5. Joe Henderson is on that record, and Joe plays pretty conventional, as you would. You know, he just plays on it, plays good. McCoy Tyner has those, what I call dominant pentatonics, and he shifted them all over the place. And of course, because he's McCoy Tyner, he can change the left hand. He just comes with amazing variations on it. And it's really good one to learn because the song is basically E7, F sharp 7, E7, F sharp 7, and then F7, and whole steps, right? Just has amazing variations on that, and also on whatever it is, and he's using it on that as well. In fact, Yeah, you just learn on that as well. But anyway, so take it and in its most elementary form, work on it because you can get incredible mileage out of these things. And like, but you have to digest it. Don't dismiss it because you think at your level it's too elementary. Don't do that because this is something that you can build upon and really do some great things with. And if you are in a situation where you're teaching little kids or any beginner, man, you got to get them following this and coloring in the lines. I hope you know what I mean by that. And yes, you get them with structure. You hear the chord change. You can hear the difference in that chord. That note's good. They can tell right away like that. But like I can remember as a kid learning the blues scale, and no matter what I was playing, you know, we'd be playing Take the A Train. And I knew it was the key A. And, you know, somewhere in there we go. You know, I knew blues scale in the wrong key. It didn't matter. That was one thing I knew. And so, and what that was doing is reinforcing the fact that I had no concept, sense of.
Hello.
Hello. All right. So I had no sense or concept of the form, the harmonic structure of the song. So if and when you're teaching little kids, got to get them in the form, the concept and the form, very important. And for us older adults, you just know that you keep building on this and you're going to get to some other things that will be really useful. Play. But anyway, this becomes a very useful tool to you. So let me, before I go on another song to demonstrate, I'm going to couple this with something. I didn't start my book with bebop scales on purpose. And the reason I did that is because when you say bebop scales, people already get a sense or an idea of what they think that is. And they say, well, I know that. I kind of know it well enough, and at all levels, and they rarely get it together. And for nearly 10 years, I taught at Manhattan School of Music, teach at a school called William Patterson, teach at this school, that school, and so from that experience, I can tell you, 5% know it, 40% think they know it, and some variations after that. So I'm going to give you a formula for this that is a little bit different than Barry Harris' formula. And I used to sit through Barry Harris's classes in the 80s. And I used to study with a guy named Phil Woods. And with Phil, never called it anything, never went over it, never even acknowledged it. But as I listened to him play, I was like, well, I'm hearing this all the time. Oh, I'm hearing it on the Coltrane solo. I'm hearing it on this solo. So then I would start seeing books on it. And then I went to Barry Harris's class and I was watching, okay. So to take away from the confusion of that, I devised something that I use for my students. And I figured since I'm doing this book, courtesy of the pandemic, I would come up with a nice little formula for this. So we'll take. That's an F major scale. Now, from that, everyone, or assumes know, from the 5th degree, From the 1. From the 3. From the 7. So now we have it from 1, 3, 5, 7. So now you got all these variations. All of them are fighting to get to the 5. So the 5 is where the chorus scale is with the passing note. The others are notes to get into it. What would you call that? Approach notes. Man, these guys know, stuff. Okay, approach notes. And so, but it's important to be able to play it anywhere. Like combinations coming. I'm trying to force it to prove a point, but you hear these variations coming. What I didn't point out was the minors, so I'm going to do that now. Barry would be going up a minor third and have them doing variations on what you're learning in major. But for me, I formulated a very different thing that is off a minor chord, because when you hear things in that period, you know, they're basically on a harmonic minor. Song. That's a harmonic minor. Harmonic minor. That's harmonic minor. So the things are clear all through that. time period, you know how those guys are playing those chord changes. That's harmonic minor, that's the chord, not sound. So we go back to the same formula. It's very different than, that's a very different sound. From the one. From the three. From the seven. So all of a sudden now you have major and minor, and you have you know, all these places are starting from where you know to play the language. And so I'm sure you hear some people playing and say, "Wow, that just sounds so authentic," and you hear other people play it, not necessarily bad notes, be like, "Yeah, okay." And it's like that kind of authentic sound is like really has to do with mastering. Always close as you can get to mastering, being able to bring those sounds into play as the comes up to be necessary. All right, and so there you go for the bebop variation. So here's the dominant scale. So I played up a dominant scale of 3, 4, 1, da. On syncopation, always, you don't have to do it. I mean, you could go. That's on the beat. I just don't do that. No particular reason. I just don't like the way it sounds. I have heard it sound good. I always have to say that Ralph Moore, who's a great saxophone player, he plays it like that. And I'm just always amazed. But he makes it sound good, makes it work. I just always, I'm on a little bit more syncopation. 3, 4, 1, so I'm on the upbeat. What matters is where that's at is on the beat. Okay, so that's on the upbeat. Minor. How many times you heard Charlie Parker do that? Play that in that solo. So you got to master that sound. That's a sound for being able to do that. And we do it in a variety of places. And when you hear it, it doesn't necessarily sound like that. Cool. Let me just shut this door. Okay. So now, let's play Love for Sale. And Love for Sale goes through a few minor and major things. And so you're going to hear the dominant pentatonic scale. We're going to play the top section. Dominant, dominant, dominant. I know some people like to do minor major 7. Some people like to do major. We're going to do dominant, 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 dominant. That's how we're going to do it. And then you have a couple little minor sections. You know, you got a minor 2-5, back to dominant. And so you're going to hear all the things we just talked about come into play. And so we're going to play this song. 1, 2, Questions so far?
It looks like very natural when you play. When you play, we don't hear that you are using lots of scale.
Right, I know.
Like,
so that's important what he just said. It doesn't sound like a lot of scales, but when I'm talking, I'm telling you that it is. Okay, so the thing that I can think of that best resembles what you're doing as a musician is a magician. And the reason I say that, or what is this, meme or mimes, because all of these people, they practice something so well and in depth that, you know, you watch a magician do a card trick and you're like, I know that there's no such thing as magic. I know that in my card, but it sure looks incredible. I can't believe he did that, you know. So I see it all the time. You know, it's like you see a magic trick and intellectually you know there's no such thing as magic, but it sure looks like magic. Jeez. And it's because they practice little individual things so detailed that when you see it, you can't see it. It just, and it's the same thing with a musician. It's like a magician. It's like when we hear Coltrane play, we're like, oh, it's just gift from God. That's all stuff, you know, it's like formulas for everything, you know, Coltrane in particular. You can hear how formulated he is once you start to understand his stuff a little bit more. Like for instance, we did the, this kind of sound, later he does. It's like all formulated, you know, it's coming from a different place. Yeah, of course his improvisation and variation, that's, you know, creative and, you know, not everybody's gonna have the level of creativity like that, but it's a learned, you know, these are tools that these people learned and devised to come up with these magical sounding things, you know, like when you hear anybody plays, like, man, how do they find these things? So you're hearing it in the end where everything's been practiced and now they're just creating because they have all the tools and they can create this stuff. But there was a time where they were sitting there going, substitute for those types of things. It's just like for those of you who have children, and those children are learning how to spell. There's no shortcuts for it. You know, you learn how to spell, it is what it is. You know, you have to take time. You're learning French or English, you gotta learn parts of speech, how it's put together, you know, to express ourselves. We're all experts in our language. So if I wish to tell her, you're so beautiful and I love you so much, I have so many ways to say that. I don't have to say those exact words, but man, I could say it a million ways. I could even say it without saying it and she'll know what I mean, because we're masters of our languages. And the same thing with improvisation. You want to get to be as close to a master of being able to manipulate these things and find, express yourself within it. But you have to take down, you have to break down and learn these little segments and put it together. So, you know, like my ideas for this book, these things I've been formulating for years, because, you know, like one of the first professional jobs I was on, we actually came to Paris, my goodness, was with Horace Silver, and I was not a very good player, and I got the job just because Horace walks into Barry Harris's Jazz Cultural Theater. For a short time, Barry had a jazz club in New York City, and it was also where he taught. It was where I used to sit in on his classes and things like that. And I was sitting in playing a session, and they were playing a blues, and I played a good solo, really good solo. And Horace asked me to come over and said, "What's your name?" I told him. He said, "Man, you sound so good, blah, 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 blah. If you played tenor, I'd hire you for my band." I said, "Well, I'm really a tenor player." And that's how I got hired for that job. And was I a good tenor player? No. In fact, I didn't even own a tenor saxophone. I borrowed a saxophone from Branford Marcellus. I borrowed a mouthpiece from Ralph Moore. And I practiced and practiced, still sounded terrible. Jesus Christ, man. But I was on the gig at that point, and so, you know, we're going through our things and trying to learn how to play, and I realized that some people just have so many God-given tools and ability. You know, like in a simple form, you'd say to yourself, here it is, I'm dedicating myself to music and trying to do this and trying to do that, and I have this little 13, 14-year-old student who wishes nothing more than to be out playing football. But his dad is like, "Yeah, you're gonna study." "Oh, okay." And so I say to the kid, "Yeah, right." And he's got perfect pitch. Jeez, how come I don't have perfect pitch? You know what? This little guy, he didn't even want to play. You know, so people are different and have different attributes. And so you have to get in tune with yourself and, you know, and realize, you know, your strengths and your weaknesses. And one thing that I try to do is I try to assess what's good in my playing, what needs to be improved the most. And it's just something I do often, and it helps me to generate and formulate long-term and short-term goals. And this is the kind of thing that helps people know where they're going. It's not just, I'm practicing today. It's like you have very specific goals in mind. So, because I teach in the universities, usually one of the first things I do in my private lessons with students is I try to help them find goals. And I say, you know, what is a dream goal? What is your dream to do this, you know? And I say, you know, based in reality, and it's not impossible. The guy says, well, I actually had a student who, bless her soul, she told me she wanted to be an important jazz artist like Charlie Parker and John Coltrane. And I was like, okay, well, I can't say it's impossible. We got a whole lot of work to do. My goodness, but no, I'm not even sure she's still playing, but that's another story. Anyway, so you set those goals of what it is you want to do, you know, and it can be a dream also, and it's okay. It's okay. You can recalibrate your goals as needed, but you know, you set that goal. I want to be a great saxophone player. I want to be able to do this. Okay, then you have to create short-term goals to help you fulfill your dream goal, your long-time goal, your 5-year goals. And so you have to get highly organized to play. So one thing that I say to students, and it's always catches them by surprise, and I'm always funny, I say, okay, we're gonna learn 1 song a week, right? 1 song a week. That doesn't sound like much. It doesn't sound like much, but you have to look at it like this. If you're learning 1 song a week really well, at the end of the year, you got 50 songs, like incredibly well, that you can play really well. At the end of 4 years, man, you're doing something pretty good, you know, and chances are you'll learn even more because you'll, your ears and other things will guide you to those things. So, you know, right there, that's breaking down and getting organized. 1 song per week. 1 song per week. Doesn't sound like a lot, but you can't look at it in a month's time. You gotta look at it in a year. You know, that's 50 songs like that, you know, to play great. And that's, you know, so you have to look at it like that. And that's part of getting organized and redistributing what you're doing. Because I tell you what, this is the habits of a lot of people. They'll take lessons, they'll buy books, they'll do this, they listen, they're passionate, they really want to play, and they're trying to learn 2 or 3 songs at a time. They learn kind of, maybe 1 of them, kind of, you know. And this goes on, this pattern repeats over and over. And I see this with students, you know, and so one of the first things I do is get them organized, all right? In that organization, I think I started this with Phil Woods, which was I would have a music binder, like a tablet of music, and in that tablet of music, everything would be organized. So then we would have 2/5 lines, 2/5 minor lines, you know, some 2 beats, some 4 beats, some 2 bars, and you only write it out 1 key. All of this is laid out in my book. You only write it out in 1 key. And of course the publisher's like, write it in all the keys and it thickens your book up. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do that. I want to give an honest effort in the book because this is how I learned, and this is what I would advocate people doing. The worst thing you could do is give them the luxury of writing this out in every key. It's a disservice. It's actually harder to learn because you also want learning to reinforce your ears. Reinforce your ears. And some of us have good ears. Some of us think we have terrible ears, and everybody else can hear and you can't. It's not true. It's a matter of forcing yourself to use your ears enough in enough different settings. They'll get better. They'll get better. Some days I can hear really well. Some days I'm like, geez, I can't hear anything. But you have to force yourself to use your ears. It's a tool. Just like we can all speak, we can all hear too. It's just different degrees. But if you force yourself to learn things by ear, yeah, I have the sheet music. Let me just do it. You know, if you force yourself to learn those things by ear, it slowly builds your ability to play ear. So write that line out. In the book you go. This is from a song. Geez, on some days I can do it now. You take yourself, you force yourself to do that. You find a little line. And you start doing this and doing things like that. So if you're playing a song like don't matter because you start getting used to playing everything in all keys. Now, let me just say this. We're human beings. We're imperfect. Like I was struggling playing that line around the keys. Probably 350 days out of the year, play it perfect, not a problem. Today, I wouldn't play it. Couldn't do it. I'm not freaked out about that because I know that I can do it. You know, it's not. I'm not in a classroom where it's teachers grading me for today, right now. You know, but I know that I can do those things. So again, stressing your ear a little bit to play things is always going to be helpful to you. So the idea of making my own fake book sounds difficult, but it is not. So a way of learning songs, say if I want to learn a song, I would suggest you make a list of maybe like, make 20 tunes and find the easiest songs possible. Easiest songs possible. And you can start by, playing, everyone should be playing a little bit of piano at least. Some of you play great piano, but at least a little bit of piano, be able to play the little tunes that you play on, because just hearing those chord progressions makes a difference. There are some unbelievable people who doesn't matter, but the majority of us, it matters, My son went to school with a kid that, if you said 9,875 times 17, bam, he can give you the answer. So he doesn't need a calculator, but that's rare. That's rare, and that's, so but for the rest of us, normal people, you need to play a little bit of piano, all right? It's funny, all the stories we ever hear about Charlie Parker, we never hear that he played piano. I wonder. Phil Woods played great piano. In fact, our lessons, he often played piano. In fact, the last time I saw him, I was at his house, and he wanted me to play through something. He was playing piano and played pretty damn good. Cannonball Adderley, who I never met, but I worked with Nat Adderley, and I was like practicing piano or something at a sound check, and he was like, "Yeah, that kind of sounds good." I said, "Hey man, did Cannonball play piano?" He said, "A little bit." I said, like how well? He said, "Shit, he played as good as you." I'm like, "Come on, man." He said, "I ain't played that much piano." I was surprised to hear that. But again, this guy's got ears around the corner. It don't matter. He's a rare, exceptional person. But for the majority of us, you gotta play a little bit of piano. Start, if you don't play, start playing 2 5s, 2 5s. Okay, now this is gonna help you when transcribing songs. You're starting your own fake book, all right? And when you're starting your own fake book, yeah, it's gonna take a little bit of extra time to work to write it out, but you know what? You're doing 1 song a week. And by playing the piano, you can hear chord qualities. Now, you're not going to be starting out transcribing. You're not doing that. You know, you're doing tunes, you know, like, here's a song that even if you didn't know this song, you can hear the chord, especially if you're playing piano. You can hear these chords. And also, it has a lot of passing diminished chords, which we all use for 5 going to 1. Now we turn them into minor 2 5 ones, but original songs, if you hear these old Tin Pan Alley songs, it's pretty hilarious. And then a little spicy, you can go 5-1, you can go 2-5-1, but it's just 1-1, and then you hear A half diminished, D7 minor, and then you hear people go minor. Some people go up a half step. That's a typical substitution. Minor, up a half step. That's a typical sub, but it's 2 5 2 5 1, and then this is also the descending dominant. F7, E7. That's new. That's not the song. The song doesn't go like that. But all musicians, you know, today if you play it, they're gonna play that. But that's not the song. It's I forget. Do you know what it does? I think it sits on. It doesn't descend. That's modernization, reharm, and but like that's a perfect song for like a first song you're writing out and making your own fake book. Practicing this, I would say practicing all the keys, practice at least in a few keys to get, you know, just used to the concept of doing that. and you're doing only one song in the week, man, you'd be surprised what you can do if you take time out to really learn these songs thoroughly. And like I mentioned to you, I'm sorry, just a second. So all those things, you can start figuring these things out when you're writing these tunes out. And these are songs that no matter where you go in the world, people are gonna play that. You go on vacation in Thailand and you decide, you know what, I'm gonna sit in with that band. And you guys know Bye Bye Blackbird? Yeah, we know that, no problem. Damn. You play it anywhere in the world. And, you know, so take times out, get organized, one song a week. But learn that song by ear, go to the piano, play the chords. You'll figure out some other things on the chords. You're like, you know what, why didn't they think of this? This is better. You know, but you can figure out things and start getting a sense of how to reharm things. Because like for me, I have to reharmonize things or else, you know, as a human being, some days my mind is super fertile. I come up with all kinds of ideas and variations, pat myself on the back. Oh my goodness, that was pretty damn good. Other days, I can't think of anything, but I have enough resources that I can reharmonize and change things that for you, the listener, is going to sound fresh and no different. But for me, I'm like, gee, crap, can't, you know, it happens, you know, it's a thing, you know. So like I say, over the years, you learn about yourself, about how you learn and how you do things. Okay, so any questions so far? Yes.
So when you say you learn a song, you talk about different concepts. How do you apply these concepts when you learn the song?
Okay, those two different things, but I guess they are related. How do I apply the concepts when I'm learning these songs? So if I was learning, like let's say the dominant pentatonics, right? Just trying to get going on that. I'm trying to use that any and everywhere I can. Force myself when I'm practicing. Force myself to use it. So the most obvious places is when you have a dominant chord. So you use it there. So you can make a play-along track for yourself, or I think I have one that I made for the book, and I put it on YouTube, and then you can hear it. It's going around. Or there's a Jamie Ingersoll, he has dominant workouts, and they play dominant chord for 4 bars, dominant chord, new key, and you get a workout like that, so that you can start bringing these things in and use them as tools. Now, on songs, there are going to be situations where you can use it. It might just be a small situation, and you might musically try not to use it. Also, variations like dominant pentatonic. I'm going to take a dominant pentatonic. We're going to play it. So that song is. That's a. Right? That's a Lydian dominant. Lydian dominant. But instead of playing a Lydian dominant, I'm going to play a dominant pentatonic there. So I started learning all these ways I can use it to play. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. is because I'm telling you what it is. But so you find different places that you can use these tools. If I was playing. Actually, that's a split of the triad. So from the dominant pentatonic, another system in the book is offer these triads. And the first thing that I do is teach a tritone scale. Oh my God, what the hell is a tritone scale? Okay, some shit I made up. Yeah, okay, I did, but it's taking two triads, you're taking a C, taking an F sharp, and you turn them into a scale. Oh my goodness, so it sounds like this. Okay, so now that tritone scale. Now if we go to that's diminished scale, right? Okay, so now so there was a tritone scale, but so now I'm splitting it up in different ways, all right? So the thing that's important about that is any place you would play a diminished scale that works, you can use tritone scales as well. So you also have to be creative and understand, as hard as this is to imagine, that you are eventually going to be your best, most effective teacher. So yes, I advocate studying with great professionals, absolutely, because there's from their world of experience and knowledge, they can bring you things, shortcuts, things that you didn't see or can't see. But in the end, even though Phil Woods was a great teacher for me, would I say he was more important as a teacher than I am myself? No. For me, I took the ideas and concepts I learned with him, and over the years, I forgot how many years it's been, but it's been some years, you know, I formulated ideas that are rooted in things I learned with him, but I got them together and formulated them in a different way. And for $9.99, you can have it also. And so, you know, like I say, during the pandemic, when I wrote this book, publisher said, "Oh, it can be 4 books." And I was like, "No, I want to give people an honest view into how they can use these tools to help them in their improvisation." So, you know, there's no fluff in the book. You're not going to have, you know, 30 pages of exercises on this, because at some point you gotta start thinking for yourself, and you have to realize that I'm giving you seeds, I'm giving you germs of ideas that you have to explore to make these things perfect. So, for instance, here's one that I do with my students. We'll take Joe Henderson used to always play. It's the thing that he always says. But you slow it down and then you say, "Oh my goodness." That triad with a flat 9. You can use that all kinds of ways. It's still a diminished scale no matter how you go. I would never play some of those phrases if I was playing with Barry Harris, because it's not necessarily going to be good. I can make an argument for it to be logical and works, but with everyone, everything doesn't work. You have to also make decisions based on the musical company that you have. And if you were playing with Chick Corea with those notes, that'd be great notes. Oh my God, those would be the exciting notes. And so you always have to make a mature decision and take everything into account: who you're playing with, where you're playing, how, these things. They're not always, just because something works, is it always a great musical decision, all right? So, but anyway, even as a technical exercise, that's a good thing. Or you can do, that's raised nine. So let's try it with a raised nine. Try it with a flat nine. Those are fun. You can figure out all kind of things on these little patterns and get a lot of great ideas out of that. So, splitting up the triads. Does someone have great YouTube connection on their telephone? Someone volunteer?
Est-ce que quelqu'un a
I know you're trying to conserve your batteries, but come on, you got good YouTube connection. Yeah? Can you just play it out for us? Something. Okay. Search for Vincent Herring, Caravan. And there's a transcription in there that goes along with my book. Vincent Herring, Caravan. You'll see a transcription. That's not advertising. Oh, advertising. Okay, so now listen to this. This solo comes in. Oh no, play.
C'est-à-dire que je peux amener ma petite ensemble.
Okay, stop. So there we have that. What the way we're playing it is we're playing the raised nine and then we're playing the plus nine. So a raised nine and then a flat nine. But the solo is constructed off just triads. You hear the sound from me a lot. That is taking the four triads in the diminished scale that you can assume is right, but you can go home and write it out, and then you can check and you'll find four major triads in your diminished scale, and you say, he was right. And then for the tritone scale, you got two tritone scales like that. But I'm also taking this. I'm taking weird combinations. So I'm still playing all great notes, but I'm organizing it in a different way and approaching it in a different way. And this is giving me a more original, flavorful sound. It would be, I could also play that. So, but I chose to reorganize those things, so that solo transcription is a good place because it goes through and it analyzes what triad combinations I use over those chords, and you can hear it. And at some point, there's even, can you play it from where it is? Listen to this minor chord. Okay, so stop. So all of a sudden, oh, what the hell are those notes? This comes from the same kind of concept of manipulating these triads, what I'm calling synthetic pentatonics, and creating these unique sounds in these unique places. So again, this comes from sitting at the piano and clunk, clunk, and trying little things. You know, like I say, you don't have to be a virtuoso on the piano. You know, all my students tell you I'm not a virtuoso on the piano. But I play tunes. You know, I play the little tunes we're playing, and I can try things against the harmony, and I can hold the pedal down, try my horn against it, and so that's an example of those kinds of things. It's in, but it's out, it's in, but it's out, and it's all logic based, and it's not just some random stuff, you know. And so, and you hear great players when they play, you can say, man, that sounds great, I don't know what the hell it is, but you know, it's not like you're hearing it going like, oh my God, that sucks, it's terrible. No, you can hear, you have a sense of that, instincts. And so, those inside, outside things are formulated. I made a spontaneous decision to do it at that instant, but based on knowledge that I have, you know, from sitting at the piano, from trying things, and I made that decision. Worked out great, and so those are the kind of ideas and things we get. People seem to get restless a little bit. Maybe we'll take a little
break. Yes.
Yeah, we'll take a little.
Yes. Hey. On a pour environ 200-300 ans de boulot, mais on peut résumer quand même que tout ce qu'on travaille, il faut que ce soit des concepts en fait qu'on peut utiliser et développer. C'est surtout ça en fait. Le truc qui est important à retenir, c'est que tout se construit, mais à partir de choses vraiment très simples qu'on va devoir répéter et qu'on va devoir transformer et ensuite amener du nouveau matériel pour faire évoluer son vocabulaire. Mais en tout cas, là c'est vrai qu'on a affaire à vraiment un master, quoi. Donc lui, ça fait longtemps qu'il a développé un max de choses. Et même juste au début du cours, direct, moi ces gammes, j'adore les pentatoniques, mais celles-là, je les utilisais pas, quoi. Donc c'est vachement intéressant de regarder d'où il part et ensuite comment il développe ces trucs. Alors, moi, ça doit être aussi un peu comme vous. Je me sens complètement dépassé par ce qui se passe, mais c'est juste normal. Parce que moi, j'en suis pas là, c'est juste ça. Mais ce qui est super important, c'est que si, par rapport à un cours comme ça, on comprend une seule chose, on progresse. C'est ça qui se passe. Il y a une seule chose à piquer et on progresse. Et là, franchement, il y a plein de moments où je suis un peu largué et tout ça, mais il y a des moments qui me donnent des idées, quoi. Par rapport aux gammes, lui, il appelle ça les gammes diminuées, mais moi, j'appelle ça les gammes demi-tonton ou les gammes qu'on joue sur les accords de dominante. Vous voyez ce que je veux dire là. En fait, eux, ils appellent ça des gammes diminuées. Alors évidemment, parce que dans cette gamme-là, on démarre à partir de la deuxième note, ça fait toujours des gammes diminuées. Mais en tout cas, c'est vachement intéressant parce que ces gammes-là, en fait, elles ont des triades majeures, des triades mineures. Enfin, elles sont ultra riches. Et en tout cas, on peut vraiment développer beaucoup de choses avec. Mais lui, il montre que, voilà, il décortique un peu tout ça. Et voilà. It's a little resume.
So we'll play.
Yeah, just like that.